it goes. Right. Hey,
I'm
everybody.
ready.
We're always ready. Hey, everybody. It is happy hour. Linda is back again to teach us how to taste wine. And I had no idea that I needed lessons for this, Linda. Welcome to happy hour. It's
Well,
Friday.
thank yeah, Friday, Friday. Yep, I'm so excited to be here. Yes, you can. So a lot of people drink wine, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't taste wine. And I think once I should go through this and show you the process of actually tasting wine, you'll know the difference. So it's something that, yeah, a lot of people drink wine and they don't really know what they're tasting when they do it. And so I'm going to help you do that.
Nice. Well, teach me the errors of my ways, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Well, first of all, we're going to go with what are you drinking today? And I know you're not drinking wine.
No.
So one of these days, you're going to bring tequila with you to one of these calls.
One of these days, I'm just going to bring something. I'm always running around like a chicken with my head cut off, and I always forget to bring a drink with me. So we'll pretend.
Yeah, even water. Even
Right?
water is good, right? Right. So just as a note, if you want to avoid, typically, as long as you don't have any allergies or anything, if you want to avoid headaches or feeling hungover the next day, if you happen to drink a little bit too much wine, drink as much water as you do wine. So, sip for sip, you should be drinking wine, water, wine, water, wine, water. So, and actually, as you're tasting, water is your real friend because it helps clean your palate so you know what you're really tasting. So, the first thing is to clear your palate because whatever has come before, whatever you've eaten, whatever you've been chewing on, whatever you've been drinking, all of those things, they coat your mouth and they affect how you're tasting whatever you put in your mouth next. And so, if that is wine, if you had a steak dinner and then you have a
Hey,
glass of
Linda.
wine,
Hey, Linda.
that part,
We have to start
what?
over. We have to start over.
Okay.
We.
All right.
I was focused on getting the streaming going, and I didn't hit start broadcast. My bad.
Oh, you didn't, because
No.
it tells us when you started broadcast. I
I was
missed
like,
that
why
too.
is this not recording? So if you're watching this live, tell us we're amateurs without telling us we're amateurs. It's been one of those weeks. I am so sorry.
That's okay. Well, we'll get to go over this twice. All right.
Yeah. Can is can we do this in about 30-ish minutes today?
I think so.
Okay.
I think we
Let's aim
can.
towards that today.
All right.
All right. Can't believe I did this. One of those weeks.
You're now broadcasting your webinar. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
This webinar is being recorded.
Hey everybody, it's happy hour. It's Friday. We're so happy. If you are watching from from Facebook or from YouTube, you've already seen this part. But we're starting today with Linda, how to taste wine. Linda, happy hour. Welcome to you.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here during happy hour. Couldn't be anything else but happy during happy hour.
Exactly.
And to share a little bit of wine knowledge with you and anybody else who happens to be with us.
What are you drinking
So
today, Linda?
I am drinking a lovely Sauvignon Blanc out of Napa County, and I'm telling you, this is lovely.
Nice.
It is one of the best Sauvignon Blancs I've ever had, I believe. So, so good, so fruity, so full-bodied. All those words that I'm going to teach you about. So,
I think it's kind
all
of
right, but
apropos that we're learning about wine and I can't drink it, but I'm here for the rest of y'all. I am down for it.
that's well, and you do ask really good questions. So, so first off, we always want to have water when we are tasting wine. So first thing is, if you are prone to headaches, or prone to over drinking a little bit, you want to, if you drink enough water, those side effects will be mitigated. So, and it's really a sip for sip. So every sip of wine you drink, you should have a sip of water. And it does help to mitigate any side effects that you might have from overindulging. Or even if you have slight allergies, and we've gone into this in other calls, sometimes winemakers put additives in their wine and you don't know what they are, and you could have a slight allergy to whatever's in there. Drinking enough water will help mitigate that, get it through your system.
Nice.
Pardon?
I said you don't say. Allergic to something in wine?
Say. Yes. Yes. You are the perfect example of that. All right. So the other role water plays in tasting is it clears your palate. So whatever you have tasted or eaten or chewed, if you're a gum chewer, any of those things, whatever has gone before in your mouth will affect how the wine tastes. So brushing your teeth, all of those things. So by drinking water before you start to taste wine, you're diluting whatever that is in your mouth so that it doesn't affect what you're tasting in the wine. So if you were to have a steak before you tasted wine, all that the juice, which has a lot of fat in it, will just really coat the inside of your mouth, and it will totally affect what you're drinking. If you have a piece of chocolate, also they've got some natural oils in them that will coat the inside of your mouth and really affect how you're tasting the wine. So drink plenty of water before you start to taste wine. So that's the first thing. So the second thing is there are actually 4 steps to wine tasting, and they're really, really simple. You look, you smell, you taste, and you think. And I know people didn't think wine tasting was a thinking job, but it is. It is. And you'll know why as we go through it. All right, so let's start off with looking. So we want to look at the wine. So you can see this wine is very transparent and very light yellow. So, which is typical for a Sauvignon Blanc, very typical. So when you see the color of it, you know right away that it was what color the grape was actually. So this was Sauvignon Blancs are a very light yellow grape. And and you're seeing that right here. That's right. The color of it.
It almost looks like apple juice.
Yes, yes. But I have a couple of other bottles here that I'm going to show you, and they're a different color. Oops, get that in front of the camera. See how yellow that is? That is really yellow.
Right.
You can put a white piece of paper behind it, and you can really see what a dark yellow that is, almost golden. And then we have this one here that is a yellow, but it's a darker yellow than what I have in my glass, but it's a lighter yellow than the other one. So what that can tell us, and certain kinds of grapes, I'd be surprised if it haven't, but this is a Fumé Blanc, which is a Sauvignon Blanc grape. Just in French, it's Fumé. So this one, because it is got that golden undertone or brown, almost a brown undertone in some light. Look how brown that looks.
Yeah.
My guess was that this one had been barrel aged. And I looked it up online to the tasting notes, and yes, indeed, this one has spent some time in an oak barrel. So when wine spends time in an oak barrel, there is a chemical reaction that happens between the wine and the oak, and it does change the color. Very few whites are put in oak, so I was really surprised to find out that this Sauvignon Blanc was in an oak. You're more often going to see a totally out of my head. There's only one other grape that they normally put into oak, and Why can't I remember what that is?
You'll think of it in a minute.
Totally off my head.
You'll think
Doesn't
of it
matter.
in a minute.
Yeah, totally gone out of my head. But they do put that one in oak. This one, they rarely put a Sauvignon Blanc in oak. But if you ever see a wine that is this dark yellow, your guess is that it did spend some time in oak. You can do some research online, just like I did, and find out, yes, that's true. Now, this one that we looked at that's a little bit darker, it's still very translucent, or almost transparent, actually. I do know that this is a blend of 17 different grapes. So out of Slovenia. So when you're blending that many different kinds of white grapes, because they're technically not white, they're technically range from a light green to a golden yellow. When you've got that many 17 grapes, that's a lot of grapes.
Right.
They can be all different colors. So you're going to get a little bit of a darker just because of the grapes that were used in here. So that is something we can tell right away by just looking at it. Did it spend time in oak? What kind of grapes were actually used for it? Is it a blend? Is it not a blend? All of those things you can tell just by looking at it. And a quick secret, if you're it especially helps with reds, certain reds, is to put a piece of white paper behind it. Then you can really tell what color it is. So, and a lot of places serve white napkins, which is the perfect thing to have to put behind your wine. All right, so that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the color of it because it can already start to tell us something about the wine. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to smell it. And when we smell wine, we don't just, you can, but you're not getting the full effect. No. What you do is you're actually sticking your nose all the way in that glass. And don't worry about how you look, because anybody who tastes wine knows that this is the proper way to smell the wine. Okay. You get your nose deep in there.
That's about the most enjoyment I can get out of it. I'll just walk around smelling people's wine.
And there are candles that smell like wine that could be perfect for you. Yes. So everyone, they have, you have two sides to your olfactory system, and you, just like everything else on your body, one arm is stronger than the other arm, one leg is stronger than the other leg. One nose smells more clearly, one side of your nose smells more clearly than the other side of your nose. So if you can figure out which one that is, go ahead and close the weaker nostril, and then really get that sniff. And this will also help you if you have a slight cold or sinus problems, being able to close off the stuffy side and smell with the other side. So today, my right side smells better than my left side. I'm not getting a clear scent with my left side at all. So you get that smell. So when you have a blend, sometimes you can start to pick out the different grapes that were in there in that blend, if you know your grapes well enough to know what they smell like. So that's you're talking drinking a lot of wine and really smelling a lot of wine to really be able to do that. But you can start to get those aromas. If you get like this one, this bottle's been open for a little while, so the scent is a little weak on it. If you get a wine that is a little light in scent, and some wines just naturally are that way, you can do what's called capping, where you put your hand on the top, you stir it around. What you're doing is you're trapping the fumes as they escape from the wine. You're trapping them in the glass. Then you put your nose over the top, and suddenly it's really strong because you're getting a lot of those scents just come barreling right out at you. You can really get that. So actually, when you smell the wine, you're getting your first taste. You're like, what? How do you smell it and taste it? But you are, because you have what's called a secondary olfactory that's connected to your throat. So do you remember when you were a young child sitting at the lunchroom table and somebody made everybody laugh? And there was that kid who had milk in his mouth, and hopefully it wasn't you, but milk in his mouth, and he was trying to laugh and keep it in, and it came out of his nose instead. secondary olfactory. That's what happened. It came from his mouth out his nose. It happens with scents. When you taste, you're actually smelling food twice and things you drink twice because you're getting it as you're eating it or putting it in your mouth. You're getting it into your nose, but then as you're swallowing it, you're getting it into your nose again because whatever fumes are coming back up into your olfactory. And so you're smelling it not only as it goes in, but as it goes down. So we take advantage of that with wine, and we really sniff it because then we get that first actual taste of it back here, and where you can kind of determine if we're going to like it just by that. I know for a fact that this wine is really, really smooth, and it does actually feel smooth on my throat. If this were really highly acidic, that deep sniff that I would take of it would start to burn my throat a little bit. That acidic scent or the acidic fumes would start to burn my throat, and I would be aware that the swallow was probably going to be a little acidic and a little sharp. Acidic wines give us a sharp swallow. So those are things you can tell by smelling it. The next thing is to actually taste it. So there are ways to taste it, but in my opinion, you have to modify them to you and your taste buds. So what a lot of people do is they take the wine in and they squish it, or it's called chewing. They chew the wine and they get it everywhere in their mouth, on all of their taste buds, back and front, underneath. They get it all over the inside. When I do that, it is way overwhelming to my oral senses, and it's just too much, and I don't really get the story that I'm looking for. So for me, I've broken it down into 2 steps. So the first step, I take it in and I roll it down the middle of my tongue. And I do kind of hold it up against the roof of my mouth, but I just kind of let it sit on my tongue. I don't let it go all over the inside of my mouth, and then I swallow it. So I get that first pass. It's easier that way than for me to start picking out the little things. Is it a little sweet? Is it a little tart? Is it acidic on the swallow? Those kinds of things before I overwhelm my whole mouth. So it's kind of dipping my tongue in it versus like dipping your toe in the pool. Right. This is dipping my tongue in the wine, and then I dive all in on the second swallow. That way I can pick out, it's easier for me to pick out the subtleties of the wine. So when you do that, so that one just went straight down. I noticed there's a tiny bit of acidity, and I know that because my saliva glands started working immediately. It has a tiny little bit, it's not sweet, but it kind of, my tongue is interpreting it as sweet. It's very light. This I would look at as a medium-bodied wine, not a heavy-bodied wine. You're not going to get a heavy white ever. They're never going to be heavy-bodied. So, and how do you know what the body is of it? So think of body. So let's talk about milk. So we have 1% milk, or we have buttermilk. So between those two, so 1% milk is like next to water. It's we'd consider that very light bodied. Buttermilk, on the other hand, is so thick. And when you drink it, it like coats your mouth, and you've got to swallow several times to get it down because it's so thick. That is beyond heavy bodied. That is what is considered heavy bodied. Now, you're never going to have a wine that's that heavy bodied, but that's if you kind of keep those parameters in mind, as 1% being the lightest of the light, and then buttermilk being the heaviest of the heavy, then and you put your wine somewhere in between there, you'll kind of understand where it falls in the spectrum of light-bodied to heavy-bodied. So this one is light to medium-bodied. And you can tell that just by how it kind of lays in your mouth. It doesn't go down like water does. It kind of hangs out in your mouth a little bit. So then that was the first pass. The second pass is when I chew it. Sorry. This one is a little acidic. And acidity does do that to me. All right. So now it coated the inside of my cheeks. And boy, are my salivary glands just letting loose. Like if I were asleep and it was rolling like this, I'd have a very wet pillow. So it's bad. Very acidic. So that's what I can tell by tasting it. I do really like it. It is very, even though it's acidic on the mouth, it's a smooth swallow, which is very interesting because that normally doesn't happen. But it's a pretty smooth swallow. Then we have what's called, what some people refer to as hang time. How long do you taste this after you've swallowed it? I am still tasting it. And it's been like a minute probably. And I am still tasting it. So it's called the finish. How long does the finish last? This one lasts a long time, which is really interesting. So that's a good thing or a bad thing. It depends on if you like the wine. If you really like the wine, you like a really long finish. If you don't like the wine, you wish it wouldn't hang around so long. So that's where the water comes in to clear your palate and make that go away. All right. So the next step is to think. And what are you thinking about? Well, you're thinking about what you just learned. So, but the first question that you're going to answer is, did you like it or did you not like it? And if you didn't like it, you're going to remember the brand and the style and the year, and you're going to make sure you never buy this wine again, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, if you did like it, or if it's like, I kind of liked it, I could drink it. If somebody poured it for me, I wouldn't throw it out. I would drink it, but I'd probably not buy it. What is it about it that made it mediocre for you? Was it a little too acidic? Do you not like all that? Your salivary glands just going and going? Does that really bother you when that happens? Do you not like a smooth swallow? Would you prefer an acidic swallow? Did you not like how it just hung around and hung around and hung around on your tongue? What were the things that you liked and didn't like about what you tasted and what you smelled? So for me, this one is not one that has it, but there are a lot of white wines that have a distinct white flower scent. It's almost like a gardenia or even a lily. I cannot stand that scent.
I don't either. When I was drinking wine, that was one thing that was not my go-to thing.
Yes. So when it has one of those scents, right away, I'm like, oh, this is not going to be one. Now, sometimes when you smell that, it's not on the tongue. So if that's the case, I know that I'm not going to spend a lot of time smelling it. I'm just going to drink it. So I'm going to try to not let it spend a lot of time near my nose. I'm going to let it just get into my mouth, because sometimes there is a disconnect between what you smell and what you taste. If that happens, does that bother you? It does bother a lot of people. Sometimes, like in the case of white flower, I'm happy for that disconnect because I just can't stand that white flower smell. Or sometimes you might even refer to it as a perfume. And if it smells like perfume, I am not there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you why. Yeah, I'm going to tell you why. Because when I was 5 years old, was I 5? 4.5. 5. And I was the youngest child in the neighborhood who could go out to play with all the other kids in the neighborhood. The little girl across the street was about 6 months older than me. So I was the youngest. And I wanted to fit in with the big kids so bad. And I was still sucking my thumb. I was born sucking my thumb. and I wanted to quit sucking my thumb. And so my mom, in desperation, she tried a lot of other things. She put my thumb in a perfumed lotion.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, this will do it. I know I won't suck. Well, do you know, I'm laying in, taking my nap or getting ready to go to bed or trying to fall asleep. And I would get desperate and I would suck that perfume lotion off my thumb so that I could suck my thumb to fall asleep. So that smell, I can still, just talking about that, I can still taste that. And it's like 55 years later, I can still taste that horrible taste and smell that horrible smell. So that is why I do not like perfume scented wines. That right there. So everybody, not everybody has a story like that, but if you don't like it, you don't like it. So those are the kinds of things that you're thinking about. So if you like acidic wines and you like that, the saliva and the sharp swallow, all of that, when you look at a bottle of wine and you're trying to buy it, don't just look at the label. All right. So the number one reason people buy wine in the US, how they pick out wine, is by the label. If they don't like the label, they don't buy the wine, which is a horrible way because you're basing the taste of the wine, or whether or not you're going to like the wine, by the artist and not the winemaker. The winemaker is a better way to decide if you like the wine, not the artist on the label. So when you go to read the back of it, sometimes they'll give you some information on the wine and sometimes they won't. But you can always look them up. Almost all wines you can find on your phone by putting in the brand, the type of wine, and the year. You'll get some tasting notes up, which is where I found the tasting notes on this wine. I just literally Googled it. If you like acidic wines, you're going to like the term bright. What is another term for that? Bright, they'll say acidic. Bright, acidic are in other words. Sharp, clean. These are all words that are used when they're describing a wine that is highly acidic. If it's not highly acidic, they'll use words like smooth, fruity. What are some other words that they use? Oh, oak. A lot of oaked wines are not acidic. So if it's oaked, you can almost assume it's not going to be very acidic. So once you understand what you like and what you don't like when you're tasting a wine, and you can tie those things to words, what you like and what you don't like to words, then it's going to make it a whole lot easier to go purchase wine that you will more than likely like, instead of spending $40 on a bottle, popping the cork and hating it from the first sip. That's sad. That's really sad when that happens. So just learning what you do like and what you don't like is really, really helpful. And that's where the thinking comes in. All right. So what questions do you have at this point, Marianne?
I don't have any, but I have some observations.
Okay.
Such as, you're going to have to taste a lot of wines in order to figure out what you do and you do not like.
Right.
Second of all, find either a reputable person like Linda that you can ask questions of, or find one of like a wine store in your area that specializes in wine that you can go in and ask questions of. If you don't have that, find a liquor store in your area that sells wine that has somebody that's smart and knows their wines in there as well. And tell them, this is, I like fruit. I like things that taste like fruity. I taste whatever. This is what my occasion is. This is what we're going to be eating. They can help you pair all this together and make it a perfect wine tasting experience for you, as close as, if you don't know what it is that you like, as possible, instead of you just going in there and all willy-nilly going to pick something out. But I worked at a liquor store and I had to learn some of this as part of my job for that. So I was able to help some people pick out some wine, for different events or whatever, but I didn't have a fraction of this knowledge. So that's why I'm glad that Linda is here with us every Friday. to help us figure out this wine experience.
Yep, and I love being here because I love talking about wine. And wine is actually a very personal experience. Once you understand what you like and you don't like, it can be a very enjoyable personal experience. And it's not just about drinking. It's not just about drinking. It's about creating an experience for yourself every time you open a bottle of wine. It can be something that you really start to look forward to. Oh, I wonder what this adventure is going to be like when I drink this wine today. Am I going to like it? Am I not going to like it? So, yes, definitely find people who do know what they're talking about when it comes to wine. Also, a lot of places will have wine tastings for very inexpensive. I know the place that I work at, Cooper's Hawk, you can taste 8 different wines for $10. You can't get much cheaper than that for 8 ounces of wine. That's amazing. And yes, you only get 1 ounce of each one. That's all you need to really decide if you like it or don't like it. So also, once you find a brand that you like, if you find a wine within a brand that you like, it is highly likely that you are going to like another wine in that same brand. And the reason is the winemaker. The winemaker creates the wine to please his or her palate. If you like something that they've made, your palate is probably similar to their palate. So by buying other wines in their line, high chance that you're going to like another one of those lines. Or another one of those wines. So that's another way to start saving the risk or lowering the risk on buying wine. Once you find a brand, I don't say stick to that brand totally, but you're just going to know. I would look for a half a dozen winemakers that you like and just kind of stick to those brands and branch out every now and then, and pay attention when someone else buys a bottle of wine and you drink it, if you like it, if you don't like it, what you like about it. And if it's somebody you can add to your list of winemakers that you really enjoy. And it will make buying wine a whole lot easier. It is so hard to walk into some of these places, these wine shops that literally have thousands of different wine, and choose a wine. It's overwhelming. But once you know the words, smooth, sharp, bright, light-bodied, medium-bodied, all of those things, once you get a hold on what you like, it's so much easier for the wine person to help you. So because you're giving them direction, and then they can give you direction on where to find the bottles that you might like.
Because we're all suckers. We all like and fall for, she was talking about the label on a bottle of wine and the artwork. Yes. And how many times have you bought anything in the grocery store or at a shopping mall or anything because the packaging just looked so amazing you had to have it for that, right? I've bought bottles of tequila for that reason. This is really cool looking. And had to have it, or makeup, the way it's packaged, or the labels and stuff. So, be open to even ask your friends that, maybe you've been to dinner and they have a wine. Don't be afraid to ask them, like, hey, what are we drinking? I really like this. And maybe be open to some of that manufacturer's other bottles as well. But just because they don't have like the best artwork on their bottles doesn't mean that they are the worst. Don't judge. This is one of those cases of don't judge the book by its cover, right?
Yes, absolutely. And you can't tell even by the price. Like this brand here, this is what I'm actually drinking. Look at how simple, that label is.
Right.
This is a $48 bottle of wine.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So, yeah, the labels are not going to tell you the story of the price either.
Sometimes less is
just
more.
Because the beautiful, gorgeous label, they may use that to jack up the price of the wine, because people are attracted to it, but that doesn't mean that the wine is really good inside. So yeah, all of these. Cameron Hughes, he does a really simple label too. Really clean label.
Because they're letting the wine speak for itself instead of overcompensating with artwork, is what you're saying.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Nice.
Yep. Unless, here's the other caveat, unless you want to use the bottles to decorate. So then, yeah, buy really pretty bottles, drink the wine, refill it with water if you want to refill it with anything. You could just recork an empty bottle and then use that for display purposes. And then at that point, you don't really care if you like the wine or not because you were after the artwork anyway, not the wine. So, yeah, that's the only reason I would buy a bottle, because of the label, now that I know about wine. But I will tell you, yes, there are a lot of them that I bought because I like the name. There's a couple of them that I just really like the names of them and the decor on the bottle. I'm like, oh, and I had no idea what the wine was like inside. Some good, some not so good, but yeah, I feel better now buying wine by by what I know, and it's easier for me to buy wine that I like now.
Right. All right. Well, I think this wraps up another happy hour. Linda, always thank you for teaching us how to taste wine today. And next Friday will be our first one with a specific bottle of wine that you're welcome to bring to happy hour. Gather some friends. Let's get some groups going together. If you're in a senior home with independent living or assisted living and you guys want to do a little challenge of who can bring the most people to happy hour, reach out to us, let us know. My contact information is at livecommunity.online, and let us know how we can help support some happy hours for you as well. So livecommunity.online, Linda Avalotis, Marianne Bailey, and we will talk to you next Friday. Wait, what kind of wine are we going to have next Friday, Linda?
This is Sauvignon Blanc, and actually I will be profiling this wine next week. But you bring a Sauvignon Blanc from anywhere, California. So the California coast. We just want to keep it Californian. If you can find Napa Valley, or Napa County, that's even better. And we'll discuss that next week. If you can give me, get a bottle of wine in a similar location as to the one that I'll be profiling, it'll almost be like we're profiling the same wine.
Nice.
So location is everything in wine. So that's what we're tasting next week. Week after next, we will be tasting a Pinot Noir. So also from the California coast. So if you want to go shopping for 2 bottles and want to save one for week after next, we'll be doing Sauvignon Blanc and then a Pinot Noir. All right, that's all I have.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us, watching later, learning about everything that we're teaching here at Live Community, learning about wine with Linda. Coming up next week, we've got all kinds of events going on that you'll see on the website this weekend at livecommunity.online as well. So I hope you will join us and register for those as well. And if you are watching on Facebook or YouTube Live, be sure to head over to livecommunity.online. Again, this weekend I'll have up the artwork. You can click register, and that way you get notified that we are going to be doing this every Friday at 4 o'clock. You'll get an invite. You can come in the meeting. You can talk to us and ask questions and be part of it, and just have a good time with us. So again, thank you so much for being with us, and I will see everybody next Friday, if not before then. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
The recording has been stopped.
I almost ended the whole thing.